I have clearly, as you said it, like I have definitely faced these issues when I shifted from the outside life to a monastic life. I do face it right now also. But the question right now, the question here is, like as you have said, how do we manage it? How do we overcome it? So there are two ways. Usually, for me, that how I analyze how to overcome any kind of physical and mental compulsiveness or attachments or cravings. One is by sublimation. See, suppose I am attached to drinking tea every day in the morning or eating an ice cream every day. How do I overcome this obsession of not eating it? So ice cream is just a variable. You can replace it with all your desires. So one is you need to stop doing it, but stop doing anything which you are already attached to is tremendously difficult. So how do you overcome it? One is by, it is like theory of mass action. It's a chemical theory. Like if we get this teaching in our chemistry class, like if there is salt in our dish, uh, now how do you make it neutral? So you add sugar. So if you want to clean an ink pot, like how do you clean it? By adding clean water to it. So it gets replaced over a period of time with clean water. So similarly, you need to replace your, see, how does in neuroscience also, they swear by two basic rules. What fires together wires together. If you don't use it, you will lose it. So we have fired enough things and we have got enough things wired also. So means we have had enough attachments. But now, if you want to get over those attachments, over those desires, you need to lose those desires. How do you lose those desires? You lose those desires by not using them. So that is how your neural pathways are uh, eroded or like done for. But it's not easy just to stop doing things which you are so uh, attached to, or you're so addicted to, or you're so compulsive to. So you replace them by good desires, by, as I said in that particular chat, uh, you replace them by joy of friendship, by some aesthetic joy, by some joy of play. Slowly you will get over the strong attachments to food, sleep, sex, power, money. So this is one way. The other way is still more fundamental, and it is um, still more radical and effectual. That is, see, this is still, I should go still more deeper. This is still a superficial way of answering it. This is, these are only just external desires that you have. There are many desires which are internal.
Yeah.
Like a man appears something is entirely different from what he actually appears to be. He, in outside world, he may appear tremendously sophisticated, but inside his house, he may be a completely different man. Or when he closes his eyes, he'll come to know that what he really is. That is why most of us don't like to meditate, because the real person comes out when we meditate. So how do you resolve those emotions? Our real unconscious, how do you resolve them? So that requires, see, there is something called as causal ignorance, there is something called as karya jnana, karana jnana, and this so-called vishaya jnana. This vishaya jnana is, it is like when you go to you can, it is like normal ignorance, like you don't know something about a plant, you read a biology book, you come to know about a plant. But this causal ignorance is actually, it can only be removed by knowledge, okay, or by realization. So this you need to strive for. Only when realization comes, you'll be overcoming this particular real nature of yours, who you really are. Okay, but that is a different way. But there is something called as karya jnana, that is self-realization, that is who you really, that is uh, uh, that we are part of something bigger. So that can be overcome by your theoretical knowledge of Vedanta. Okay, so you need to have strong faith. See, in Indian philosophy, there are 6 systems of philosophy. Inside each system, there are again subsystems. There are again different schools. So, but in Western philosophy, also there are huge, big schools of Kant, Hume, and Descartes. There are many schools there are, but in all these, whenever any philosophy was introduced in Vedanta, Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, Ramanujacharya, Chaitanya, Veda, they never try to put any philosophy of their own. Okay, they only try to reprove the truths that were already stated in the Upanishads, in the Vedanta. From them only they had tried to take one particular aspect and tried to make it prominent. Nobody has done anything original, that this is a new philosophy, this is something, this is how the nature of consciousness is, this is how the nature of mind is, this is how the nature of life is. Nobody has done anything. Everything was already stated. That is why it is called as Shruti. Shruti is not man-made. It is man-made in the sense, of course, people only have written it, but they have not written from a worldly conscious plane. They have written it from a plane of consciousness which is uh, completely full, completely non-dual. Okay, they, from that plane they have written it, when they have come down little from that plane. So they are already established truths. So that is why Shankaracharya also never, whenever he has written any commentary, he has never told that, he has only written commentaries. He has not written anything that is like, this is a philosophy of mine. Okay, he has just interpreted the Upanishads, because he said that it is tremendously useless and tremendously stupid trying to trust in your own mind, because every person's mind is different. So better to take something which is already proved and understand it, than trying to prove something from your own intelligence, because we are all limited beings. So we never have tried to from thinking, there is no what we can, there is no inference from our own thinking. We understand that truth already is proved, it's already there, and we only try to understand it and realize it. So this is how actually philosophy and spirituality works in Vedanta. So as I said, there are, with these kinds of truths, you will, after knowing them, when you will be able to consciously bring out the emotions in your meditative states and resolve them. That is how, from a causal point of view, you need to remove these fundamental emotions like kama, krodha, mada, matsara. This is, then only you'll really become free. Okay, so concentration is very superficial. After you finish concentration, again, when you see somebody that you hate, again anger comes out. But how to remove anger itself? You need to dive in deeper into how to remove lust itself. You need to dive in still more deeper. So all these things happen when you have good foundation of Vedanta, the laws of Vedanta. This is the second uh, aspect, dimension of resolving your emotional life. The third aspect I want to tell you is we need to start maturing our ego. Okay, so how does ego play a role? As I said yesterday, suppose in the slide that you're seeing, suppose you think you are a mother, your expectation is that your child will be successful or happy. So naturally when you are meditating, see, whenever you think about something, it is like meditation only. So naturally attachment is the consequence of it, and craving is till he achieves what you are expecting, you suffer. So now, see, if you are not a mother, if you have not got married, or will you have that expectation? Will there be attachment? Will there be craving? Absolutely not. For me, do you think I suffer from my child getting uh, successful? I don't have a child. So naturally, there will be no expectation, attachment, craving. I don't have a business. I don't have uh, uh, wife. So naturally, these things so will not be there. So you need to see here. Not having is not the point of it. Is about the attachment that is with your ego that causes you misery. Okay, so now you need to mature this ego. You need to really understand who you really are. So there is this example that when Alexander came to India, he conquered the northern part. Aristotle was his um, guru. So he had told, when you go to India, I've heard, get a man of wisdom from there. They have some knowledge that we will benefit from. So naturally, he asked his minister to go and approach this particular sage that he heard about to come with him back to Alexandria, back to Greece. So when he went there, he was very like he said that the king of the world is beckoning you, please come. Then the sage said that no, I am quite old. Uh, let him come here if he wants to meet me. So then then the minister said that, do you know whom are you asking for? He's the king of the world. People go to him. He doesn't come to anybody. So he said, I'm sorry, but that's not possible. Then he, he was angry, but he couldn't do anything because king wanted to see him. So he went and told this to the king. Then Alexander came. He was tremendously furious. Then he said, do you know that who am I? Then he said, okay, like whoever you may be, please tell me, like, why do you want to see me? And he said, you need to come with me back to Greece. My master wants to see you. So he said, I'm really old. At this age, I can't come to such a far place. Please excuse me. So you don't have a choice. I'm the king of the world. People follow what I tell them to do. So he said, I know, sir, but I'm really helpless. I can't come. Uh, but he knew that he can come. Actually, he was like, if he really wanted to, he would have all the facilities. So he would. So and he threatened him at last that I will cut you into pieces, and I'll throw you in the river if you don't come. So then the sage started laughing. Then he was confused. Then he's not worried about death itself. So for the sage, there is nothing called as a sage. There's nothing called as this body. There's nothing called as this mind. Whatever you tell, he's already dead for the samsara. So there is nothing that affects him. There's nothing that actually hurts him, or his ego is bruised. So then he understood. Then he literally requested him, sir, please come. Uh, then after tremendous request, he agreed. Then, as we know the story, that he couldn't reach Greece, he died in Egypt itself. So even when he went to Alexandria, he came to know that uh, uh, Alexander was dying. So he said, I want to die. That also confused Alexander. What this person is telling, I want to die, I want to kill myself. Again, like, this person is some mad person. So he bought a pyre of wood, and he sat on that and he self-immolated himself, and all this happened. But see, they had those tremendously, their ego basically, see, when you really are not attached to your ego, basically you will not have these kind of expectation, attachment and craving. But right now our case is we are attached. So see, we have different egos that we appropriate ourselves. See, you are a father to your children, you are a mother to your husband to your, the same person is a husband to the wives, the same person is a boss to his employees. So basically now we have built these egos, because see, ego a bad thing or a good thing? What do you feel?
Sometimes
What do
it,
you
yeah, sometimes it may be useful, sometimes it is not, because it's going to be very destructive.
Yeah. Okay. The answer is perfect. See, ego is a good thing. Okay. See, if you don't have a ego, you can't transact with the world. Okay. See, right now, if I have an ego of, suppose, a teacher, that's why I'm able to transfer you some kind of uh, so-called knowledge. But when I'm with my mother, I have an ego of a child. When I'm with my sisters, I have ego of a brother. When I'm with my brothers, I have ego of a brother. So uh, ego is good to transact. There is some to and fro that is happening. There is some kind of give and take that is happening. So ego is good to transact with the old, but we should not become obsessed with ego. I can't say that I am a teacher, so everybody should respect me. I need not have this kind of an inflated ego of a teacher, that whenever people come, that I start giving them lessons on spirituality. That is when you come to know that ego has, that you are tremendously attached to your ego. So who you really are, that's what we are going to see later. But now the question is, when we have come to know theoretically that if we are spirit, we need to start believing in it. Okay. See, then slowly the your reactions to life change. See, experiences cannot be changed. Your experiences, I mean, like, what comes to you from external world, what comes to you from internal world, they cannot be changed. They're predetermined. You have got a pack, the cards are given to you. Now the reactions to those cards is what is lying in your hands. Jati, bhoga, ayush, you can't change it. They are there now. How do you react to this? How do you react to your suffering? How do you react to your old age? How do you react to misery? That is where is in your hand. Adhyatma is in your hand. Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika, these things from external world, things from unknown worlds, you absolutely don't have any control. How do you react to this is where you can have control. So now, as I said, my name is Amo Chaitanya. So this they have given me after 5 years. Okay. Why should they give me a new name when I already have a name called Chandan? Why do you think they give me a new name? It is redundant, right? It is of no use. Why simply give a new name when you already have a name?
You need to
Why do you think?
you need to leave all the egos and all the other things that what you have been attached to your Chandan, because identity and all.
Yeah. So now when I was Chandan, if you gave me a bad word, I would react immediately. Do you think right now, when I say that I'm a sadhu, I'm a sannyasi, if you give me a bad word, or if you uh, do something, I'll react to you in the same way? I will not react to you, because I'm slowly identifying myself with Chaitanya. I'm a spirit. Spirit nature comes into me, and spirit does not react. The mind reacts, the body reacts, but the spirit does not react. This happens not only with Chaitanya, spirit happens with you also in your daily life. Suppose, were you the same person before uh, getting a child? No. So when somebody called you a father, when somebody called you a parent, you became responsible, because now you're a father. The way you react after being a father is different. This happens even before that. See, we have never even gone to the first day of our college, suppose you have got an MBBS seat, you have got a law seat, you have become opened a new business, so your friends call you, ha doctor saab, ha engineer saab, ha lawyer saab, ha seth ji kaise ho. So they're giving you these identities that you're a doctor. So now the way your ego is a doctor, now the way you react to people is different than the way you had reacted before being a doctor. Yes or no?
Yes.
Just because you have a different identity now, you have started identifying with this. So so try to that what exactly is your identity, that's what we are going to see. A spirit, what does spirit say? What is it? What is the nature of the spirit? We all say we are the spirit. What actually is its nature? That's what we are going to see later. But I'm telling you, we need to fake it till we make it. Okay. Start believing in it. Slowly experience follows. So start changing who you really are. It's not that we should write it on our, you should like hold a placard and go every around, I'm a spirit, I'm a spirit. But understand you're actually a spirit inside. But egos are just small masks that help you transact with the world. That is not your real identity.
Okay.
So these three uh, basic there are these three principles which you can use to overcome your so you are telling, you are, the question was like how should we overcome our
Yeah.
emotional life. So one is by maturing your ego, trying to identify yourself with a more holistic view of life. Second one is by, I said that theory of mass action, Pratipaksha Bhavana it is called. Replace your bad emotions by good emotions. And third one is deeply you need to go and resolve your emotions, okay, by understanding Vedanta and understanding life. And who how do we understand life? We understand life only by reading Vedanta or Shruti or being associated with a realized soul. You can't go and bet on your teachers or your parents because they itself suffer. So you need to go to a source who have already resolved these issues. So that is how these three ways are there.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. And one other thing, yeah, because I have another thing which from yesterday's craving.
Yeah,
I have this question: craving versus desires.
yeah.
So desire in Telugu we can call it as korikulu, and then is the craving, in my understanding, a desire which is coming more oftenly on the surface. So that is a craving. So is both the craving and desires both are at the same level, or because craving is one which I'm thinking that it is coming to me every minute or every if I wanted to eat a mango, then I wanted to eat a mango, I wanted to eat a mango, I wanted to eat a mango, that is a craving. But if I have just a thought that I wanted to eat mango, that is a desire. So whether it is going to fulfill or not going to fulfill, that is another thing. Is the craving is nothing but a desire?
What you said, you can differentiate. It's good to break things so that we can get a little better understanding. Your You can differentiate craving and desire. You can say craving which comes to your conscious mind often, and desire is something like an instinct. It is a strong, deep-rooted memory to experience it again and again. Yeah, it's a good breakup. I can agree on that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Let's,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah. So let's start it. S- So we had we had finished the first three topics, happiness as a motive force. What exactly is our motive behind our action? So we had concluded that even Vedanta says that a man acts because he's seeking happiness. Okay, for any action, the motive behind it is happiness. The levels of happiness, there is something called as worldly happiness, there's something called as spiritual happiness. So today we are actually trying to investigate more on worldly happiness. Then we may come to understand what spiritual happiness is. But let us start from the known, right? Let us just see all this I'm giving you. It is an a building blocks so that we can actually come to the laws. So this is called apperceptive mass. We need to have something so that we can draw something out of it. So first we need to build on the building. You need to know the language before we can apply things. So let us uh, so all these things, let us just, I know it may not appear as there is a link between all these things, but when I start speaking on the laws, then you'll start understanding the link. Right now, these are just, you can take them as building blocks. Uh, they may look discrete, but later when we start connecting them, when there is, when we start linking them to our goal, that is eternal happiness, they will come into, you'll start feeling their link, and you'll start really understanding their importance and their uh, depth. So yeah. So now this is I just want concepts of happiness according to Vedanta. Then we'll come to concepts of happiness according to Western sciences. So basically now, according to Vedanta, what does Vedanta say on happiness? So they say that Vedanta, they they totally recognize and they accept both kinds of happiness. They never say that, oh, this is bad, that is right. There's nothing like that. They give equal importance to every kind of happiness that we experience in life, material, mental, or spiritual. But they just say that the degree of that happiness varies, and it is uh, fixed to that particular level. You can't expect more happiness. So just because you are eating 3 chocolates, that doesn't mean that you'll get more happiness. Chocolate has this much amount of happiness, so you'll get that much amount of happiness only. It's not that by having more chocolates or having different type of chocolates, Belgian chocolates, African chocolates, Indian chocolates, the happiness varies. Chocolate has this particular level of happiness, it gives you this particular, but they recognize it and they say, yes, it is happiness. Everything is happiness. We are born in happiness, we live in happiness, and we die in happiness. It's only the degree that varies. Okay, so what according to Vedanta, basically they give due value to both worldly happiness and heavenly happiness. Heavenly also here means material happiness only, and make men conscious of the fact that both of them are temporary and ultimately lead to misery and transmigration. How does it happen? Let us see later. They believe that Atman spirit is existence, knowledge, bliss. Uh, this also I will try to explain it later. What exactly? Most of you, since you're uh, seekers, you must have analyzed this, but it is just to remove any kind of confusion between my understanding or understanding. I'm going to explain it so that we start from a common ground. Okay, later. So if they say that Atman or spirit is the source of happiness. And to quote Upanishadic statement, as I said, no philosophy in India, um, that is why we call it as Sanatana. That is why Buddhism and Jainism were not considered as Sanatana Dharma, because they didn't take Vedanta, or they didn't take the Upanishads as their uh, foundation. So Upanishads, whenever any commentary, any school in Vedanta or in Hinduism, we always try to prove it from the basis of Upanishads itself. So to quote, that is why usually you see in any books of spiritual Indian spirituality, there is always a quotation trying to refer it to some Vedantic proof. Okay, so here also, for instance, Upanishadic statements support this view. Vijnanam Anandam Brahma. It is Brahman which is absolute knowledge and bliss. This is from Ridaraniki Upanishad. Yovai Bhuma Tat Sukham. The infinite is bliss. Chandogya Upanishad, and so on. There are many statements to say that source of happiness here is spirit, not the mind, not the body, not the world outside, not the objects of the world outside. The Vedantists are of the opinion that it is that in this world, happiness depends upon the fructification of an individual's deeds. Okay. um, this is very important. This is for worldly happiness, okay, not spiritual happiness. For your worldly happiness, when your karma has come to fructify, that is when you experience happiness. When the time for the fructification is at hand, favorable objects of enjoyment become available to us. Okay. And the happiness one gets in their association is due to the manifestation of bliss of Atman. So this again is a different topic, but basically for any worldly happiness, when what you desire becomes available to us, this is in our everyday experience, we may experience it. Whenever you desire something, and if the object of desire becomes available to us, we experience happiness. How exactly the manifestation of happiness takes place? As he's saying that when the uh, Atman shines on your mind, on the particular state of mind, that is when you experience happiness. That again, we'll see it in detail more later. But basically, this is a very outlandish view of how Vedanta understands happiness. We'll get into details later. So before that, let us understand the concept of happiness according to Western psychology, because see, you need to understand science, psychology from Western point of view, because they have investigated deeper into these aspects. But when it comes to spirituality, the entire Western understanding are infants, they're babies. Okay. Uh, how much we have investigated and uh, really understood spirit, its nature, its applications are tremendous. So this is the actual gift of India to the world, the nature of spirit, Atma. They've discovered that in detail. But the sad part is we have overoccupied ourselves with Atman, that we have less understanding, or there were understanding, but we can say that we have lost the understanding of this world, sciences, and mind. Okay. But because basically we thought that that is important, that is why we have invested so much of our time and energy in spirit. So anyhow, that's just an auxiliary topic. uh, how does Western science understands happiness? Okay. So Western science conclude that their concepts of happiness are limited only to mind and nervous system. Okay. So they don't have any concept of spirit in psychology. They understand everything based on your mind. So basically they discovered that there are areas in the brain where stimulation gave the greatest pleasure. There are areas in they discovered that the areas of the brain where stimulation gave the greatest pleasure were spread through the hypothalamus. That is this part of the brain, the middle part. So there's, you can see the reward system there. Okay. So they were spread throughout the hypothalamus from front to back, that they called it as a river of reward, as it was called. This was basically discovered, I think, somewhere in 1953. It was found that the stimulation of these pleasure sites of the hypothalamus produced no particular action. It's not that when I gave an electric shock to that particular point of in your brain, you went and did something pleasurable. It was nothing like that. You just didn't do anything, but still you felt that pleasure. Okay. No particular action, but only the evident gratification. You felt pleasure. Later, they will discover that these pleasure sites appear to be associated with feeding, sex, according to the psychologists. So sex drive, when you eat food, the happiness, they were associated with this particular site in the brain. Although the hypothalamus had been regarded as a center of pleasure, in fact, there was after this, there was a man who came to this. There are three particular psychologists. They had one person who was tormented and who wanted to commit suicide. He came to one of their laboratories in Yale, and they stimulated this particular uh, part of his brain, and then he experienced a tremendous happiness or pleasure, and He even said that the pleasure that I experienced is the greatest. It is better than any sexual gratification. So this is what they understand as happiness. Okay, it is completely nervous stimulation. Okay, although the hypothalamus has been regarded as the center of pleasure, derived from satisfaction of hunger, thirst, and sex appetite, the pleasure drive in man becomes intense or tepid less according to his culture and learning. Okay. Therefore, some psychologists believe that emotion is the basis of pleasure drive. So that is why we, in our day-to-day life also, you have seen that we give so much importance to emotion, any emotional relationships, because naturally we experience happiness due of uh, in this emotional relationship. And some people say that, even that some psychologists say that uh, pleasure is the cause for any emotion, and some say that pleasure itself is an emotion. Okay, though again different psychologists say different things. So in their opinion, in some different psychologists are saying that the relief from nervous tension caused by excessive passion is a real cause of happiness. So when you are relieved from any kind of pain, they say, when you experience that kind of happiness, they say that is the real cause of happiness. They observe that one gets more happiness after the tension is over than during the enjoyment itself. So relief from the tension of thirst for enjoyment becomes the cause. So when you are relieved from being thirsty, that is when you drink water, then you experience happiness. Any tension, when it gets over, that is when you feel you're happy. Okay. For instance, one feels happy when one comes from the scorching heat of the sun into cool shade, or drinks a glass of water after being tormented by thirst, and so on. So this is how they understand happiness. They even say that these are all true things, okay, but still they are completely dependent on your mind and your nervous system. You can't experience a thing for a long time. That is why we need so many objects of enjoyment. And even if a thing that you're enjoying, suddenly it is taken away from you, you experience pain. Then sometimes unpleasurable objects, by experiencing it again and again, you feel happiness in it, like alcohol. Initially you may not experience happiness, by repeating it you start experiencing happiness, the machoism. So all these things, some say even uh, so all these theories are there in understanding happiness according to psychology, but basically, as I said, they're limited only to mind and nervous system. They are not wrong, but we should understand that mind itself is something which is so temporary. Mind itself by nature is so contradictory. So you are trying to depend based on mind. So naturally the experiences also, the experiences of what you experience in the mind also vary, is also contradictory. So now again coming to the next topic, the experience of men regarding worldly happiness. So now I finished what I wanted to tell. Now it is just a bit of uh, repeating the same thing, uh, trying to make our knowledge more established. It is kind of a revision. So how do men experience, when we experience worldly happiness, what happens to them? So how people understand worldly happiness. So whatever be the concepts of happiness according to Eastern and Western thinkers, so whatever the sages must be telling, be they right or wrong, it hardly concerns the man in general, as it results neither in intensifying nor weakening their pleasure drive. So pleasure drive, whatever we say, it neither intensifies that pleasure drive, neither lessens it, because man has been running after worldly pleasures from time immemorial, since the advent of earth. So whatever the scriptures mandates, the saints say, the seers have proved, is in no way effective in changing the course of his life. But still, Okay, even though he has still bets on worldly happiness itself, still, as he has been enjoying this world to his fill, his experience tells him that even after enjoyment, the desire for enjoyment is never quenched. And it is very strange that it goes on intensifying, it goes on increasing. That is really strange. So actually it should have been quenched after you experience something. You should feel that, oh, I have done it, been there, done that. Why read the same page again and again? Why experience? My parents have so uh, 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 like, I've seen my parents' life, I've seen their suffering. Why simply I also should suffer? So this is not the understanding we get. In fact, we the curiosity of enjoying still increases. The intensification of I want to enjoy it still intensifies. That is really strange. So it is because of this that Indian sages say that thirst or trishna is a root cause of misery, that craving is a root cause of misery, that you're, um, as you said, those, yeah, in Telugu, that korika is the root cause of all misery. This is said in Mahabharata. So Bhagwan Shri Krishna says in Gita also that happiness which arises from the contact of objects with the senses at first is like nectar, but at the end is like poison. So this, the bracket here is worldly happiness, okay, the contact of object to happiness, but at the end it is like poison. That is declared as rajasika, since enjoyments that are contact born are the cause of misery alone, and with beginning and end, O son of Kunti, a wise man does not seek pleasure in them. He tries to discriminate. He tries to see uh, the consequences of his happiness. So he thinks before he reacts. He trusts the Shastras, the wise men. He does not trust his own mind. We usually are taught to trust our own mind. This is what so-called in self-confidence books and all these things we learn, that trust yourself. So what do you feel is the answer? Should we trust ourselves? You can unmute yourself and answer this. Is it good to trust ourselves?
Yes.
Answer is yes, good enough.
Maybe not.
Is there any answer, any other answer other than yes? Satish says maybe not. Good. Is it good to trust ourselves? So because basically this is what the self-help books teach us. Or your parents tell, the teachers tell to trust yourself. Trust your intuition. Good. So yes, so let us answer it. Um, Maybe not a thing. So basically the answer is, if your will is bound, that is, if your emotional life is resolved, you can trust yourself. Okay, if you're a free person, you can trust yourself. Only the free are free. This is what Swamiji like to tell everybody. Only the free are free. See, what did he mean by free? When you are absolutely not compulsive, when there is absolutely no animal instincts in you, that is the time you can start trusting yourself. Otherwise, please don't trust yourself. Trust the Shastras, trust the realized men, trust their teachings, trust their principles. Transform yourself in their mold and then trust yourself. So it is foolishness to trust yourself when you are itself a compulsive human being, when you are itself moved by your emotional life, when you are itself overwhelmed or overpowered by your emotions. by things outside, by people outside, by you only need validation. So all these things come into picture from external and internal compulsiveness. So if you're free from them, it's good to trust. Otherwise, kindly trust their teachings, trust the Shastras. When I use the word Shastra, it is always Vedanta, okay? Upanishads. Or if you have any contact with any realized soul, trust them, okay? So the same thing, root cause of all misery, craving. Why the craving is because you have attachment. Why the attachment is because it is a byproduct of expectation, and basically it is because of an immature ego. You have inflated egos, you have immature egos. You think that what you are not, uh, you are think and believe and even strongly are addicted and attached to it. That is why these are the consequence of immature ego. So we, as I said, we need to, it's not just that by changing the ego, uh, we can get over cravings. We need to attack it from, use all your arsenal, okay? Your different weapons are there, is not just one weapon. Try to um, as the first, this is basically the answer to the question sir had asked. So try to use all kinds of methods so that you come out of this emotional compulsive being. I give you 3 methods in the starting of the class. So now, so just coming a little more uh, into the theoretical aspect again. So every human being experiences some day in his life that one and the same thing at time gives him pleasure, while at other times become the cause of pain, anger, disgust, or give him real dispassion, and becomes thus the cause of realizing the bliss of Atman. So this this actually is from, I think, some Garuda Purana, I don't know. So uh, same thing is giving us sometimes happiness, sometimes pain, sometimes anger, sometimes disgust. And when we go on, when we really understand the nature of that object, that it is like this, slowly it gives us something called as dispassion, vairagya it is called in Sanskrit. And then we start seeking this so-called, where does this eternal happiness lies. You start seeking answers to these uh, uh, questions which you feel are so confused and mugged and muddied, okay? So therefore, there is nothing which can be stamped as pleasurable or painful in this world. It is because happiness or misery depend upon the state of mind. So again, I want to keep it in bracket. This is for worldly pleasure. It completely depends on the states of your mind. Suppose you are tremendously miserable, somebody died, or you're sick. If I get you a car, or if I get you the thing that you desire, still you are unhappy. And sometimes you are extremely happy. Suppose you have, your son has done really well, he has got married, and you come to know that somebody stole your car. So this, because you are really happy, you take that shock. You don't get extremely depressed, but you don't get extremely, because the state of mind is happy. So basically, your happiness completely or misery depends on the state of your mind, okay? Less on the objects for worldly happiness again. Therefore, for a man of discrimination, everything in this world is painful on account of everything bringing pain, either as a consequence or as an anticipation or loss of happiness, or as a fresh craving arising from the impressions of that happiness, and also the counteraction of qualities. This is said in Patanjali Yoga Sutras, I think in 3rd chapter. So basically, see, as they say, this, the very nature of this world is contradictory. What does that mean by contradiction? Contradiction is the characteristics change. The same example I'll be giving, because there's nothing much more here. We just have to make things more general. Spirituality is making things more general, not particular. But our life, because of so much competition, we get appreciated because we are more particular. We are super specialists. But it's good to be super specialists, but it is still more better to be generalists. So basically, philosophy or spirituality is, you are trying to understand the holistic worldview. You're trying to understand the relationship between the particulars. You are trying to understand the nature from a very higher standpoint. So when we understand this, that anything that you, any object is dual by nature, that is, the same chocolate is pleasurable, it is the same chocolate that is the cause of pain. The same wife is the most coveted thing right now when you get married or when you love somebody. The same wife becomes a great source of pain if she dies, or if she does not start listening to you, she cheats. Same child is a great source of happiness when he's born, but the same child is again the same source of tremendous pain if he is unwell, or something happens to him, or he does not do well in his life, or he does something evil in the society. So even it has to do with your body and mind also. Body is a great, see, beauty, when so much we appropriate our happiness on beauty. So what do you think that beauty is like? Why see, beauty basically uh, is like 50% of what we call beauty is age. Okay, when age goes, or basically not even age, health, you can say. Okay, health. So when health is not there, there is, the beauty just vanishes. Okay, it is so evanescent. The other 25, you may say that it is dependent on how well you dress up, makeup. The other 25% is actually your features, your inborn feature, your so-called your gene pool, you can say. So just on that 25%, it is $1 billion industry. We place so much importance on happiness that we derive from beauty. But actually it is just 25% of the beauty. And again, I'm not coming to moral beauty, spiritual beauty. That's a different aspect again. But just this on how you do your makeup, how we dress up, and all. Billions of dollars are spent, so much time and energy is spent. People live, they make careers in it. So just understand that how vanity works in our lives. Okay, so when we understand this, or we anticipate the loss of happiness as a consequence of that, if I do this for a long time, the memory will haunt me. Okay, when we understand these deeper things, how exactly we work, so then we start discriminating. As a consequence of discrimination, you'll get dispassion, and then you seek. So therefore, they renounce the worldly pleasures, prayers, and accept the path of good, shreyas, which leads to Brahmananda. So this comes in Kathopanishad. So prayers is temporary happiness. It gives you, not temporary, it is like immediate happiness. Okay, it gives you immediate happiness, but the consequence is that you end up in more suffering than pain. So path of good or beneficial path is, initially it is painful, and later you experience. I had seen somewhere in paper, a cardiologist said that who had performed about he had performed about 5,000 cardiac um, operations. He said that uh, anything that tastes sweet, whatever we any things, whatever we like, understand that is bad for you. Okay, when we eat something, if you say that I like it, it is bad for you. Most of the things that we eat, when we say that you like it or it tastes nice, it tastes sweet, he said that it is bad for you. So it is something like that, what I wanted to mean. It is basically, it may appear very painful right now, or say, oh, God realization, self-realization. Why simply leave a bird in hand and try to wish something for two in a bush? I'm happy here. Initially, it may feel very comfortable and nice and happy, but later it does end up in more misery than even what you had conceived of. So coming to the source of happiness, so all these topics we are seeing, how do we experience worldly happiness, what is how person experiences the worldly happiness. So then what is the source of happiness? As Vedanta says, it is the Atman that actually gives happiness. But still, before getting into that, let us see some examples. So another experience of a man is worth considering here. While enjoying the worldly objects, although it appears that the source of happiness is the object, on critical observation, one finds that the source is not the object, but within the enjoyer himself. That is why one can experience happiness even though the object of enjoyment is absent. So let us slowly, they're trying to take us through investigation, that slowly, part by part, they're trying to take us inside. So they're trying to see where exactly happiness lies. So we see this in our everyday life, that even though like things like love, appreciation, they're not objects, but still we experience happiness. So how do we experience it? For instance, in deep sleep and dream states, we experience happiness, right? So when you come out of a deep sleep, you say that I'm happy. So were there any objects when you slept? There were no objects, but when by asking that how was your sleep, you will say that it was a good sleep. How did that emotion of goodness come when you didn't experience any object? So it is not dependent on objects. That's what they want to conclude on. In dream also we experience things, uh, happy dreams. Usually dreams are considered as, um, don't think it is any mystery. Basically they are, when in objective world, when you're in your wakeful state, when any desire is unfulfilled, usually we fulfill them in our dreams. That's what they say. So one can experience happiness without the gross presence of the objects, even in waking state, such as through fantasy. Sometimes even while you're reading, but in your, usually it happens when we are children, we are sitting in front of our books, but in our mind we are hitting 6 balls, 6 sixes. We are Batman, we are Superman. All these experiences we have, with open eyes we fantasize and we experience happiness. All this is possible because the source of happiness is within us. That is the Atman. The bliss one enjoys in the state of Nirvikalpa or Savikalpa Samadhi. So what is Nirvikalpa and Savikalpa? See, this again is a bit technical. So Savikalpa is, it is something called as Shakshatkara. That is when you have your Ishtadevata Darshan. I feel like they're teaching meditation. I heard from my sister that you meditate and all. So when the object that you meditate up is is present in your mind's eye spontaneously without any effort from your own, that is called Savikalpa Samadhi. There's something I can give you, some kind of relatable experience in your life. It is like something called as aesthetic detachment. So when you're children, the first time when you saw a beautiful sunset, the first time when you saw a deep valley, the first time when you saw a huge ocean, you forgot your body and you became one with the nature. Okay, sometimes it happens. Usually it happens in our childhood, but because it does not happen as we grow, because our mind becomes more restless because of our desires. So usually we don't experience that kind of happiness. But sometimes these artists, these musicians, surgeons, cricketers, any who's overly passionate with their um, profession, they experience while painting, they just forget that their body, they just are so immersed in the painting that painting itself becomes reality. Musicians, these people who conduct huge orchestras, they just forget themselves, and their music itself stands, everything else is just dissolved in the background. um, Surgeons, cricketers, they just are so immersed in the play, they immersed in the act that they do, that there's just the act that remains. The person just vanishes. So this is called savikalpa. Nirvikalpa is still more difficult to explain, because uh, it is like there's no object also that time. What is okay. So there's neither the object, neither the so-called subject. Uh, there's just the reality that exists. It is called, that is why it is called objective awareness, objectless awareness, choiceless awareness, intentionless awareness. There are no objects. Okay, we'll come to that if time provides later. But anyhow, I'm telling you, basically, bliss does not, happiness does not depend on objects. Or in deep, let us continue. Or in deep sleep, the best they are the best example of objectless happiness. So nirvishaya ananda, vishaya means object. If happiness were not possible without an object, one could not have experienced bliss in these states. Okay, if I say no, because of my wife only I'm happy, because of my children, because of my property, because of my bank balance, then these states would not be possible. A man of subtle intellect can feel, even while enjoying objects, that the happiness he is getting is coming from within himself and not from the object. Had an object been really a source of happiness, it would have always given us happiness. Okay, so but experience tells us that one and the same object leads to pleasure at one time and misery, jealousy, anger, etc. at other times. The same woman may be a source of great happiness to uh, husband, her husband. The same woman may be a source of great jealousy and hatred to his mistress if he has one. Okay, so the same, it is so subjective. That's what I'm telling you. If really happiness lied in the object, then the object would give happiness no matter in whose hands it is, or where it is, or at what time it is. For example, suppose you win a lottery. Okay, you're extremely happy. And suppose when you really get that happiness in your, the money in your hand, you're still more happy. Wow, I got the money. And suppose some robber comes and takes away that money that is in your hand. Will you be happy that time? If really happiness lied in money, it should have not have mattered वो तुम्हारे हाथ में है या चोर के हाथ में है. But why are you so miserable if it is in the robber's hands? If really happiness lied in the object, it should have given you happiness. It should have been like light. Whether the light is in your hand or the light is in robber's hand, the light is light, it gives light anyhow. But it's not like that, right? You become miserable if money is there in the robber's hand. So basically they want to tell us
आप
that.
ना प्रॉपर ईएनटी के पास ही जाओ या तो, या मुझे
Is there any question?
No, sir, you can go ahead.
Okay. So now one more question may arise in our head, that if it is if it is accepted, suppose let us agree that the source of bliss lies within us. हाँ ठीक है भाई, source of happiness lies within. Then is it, so before that, let us even have a little more analysis in waking state also. So the objects that you're seeing in waking state, where are you seeing? Suppose you're seeing this laptop in front of you. Where do you think that object is present? आपको क्या लगता है? Is it outside you?
But it is get registered in your mind.
So even the object that you're seeing is completely dependent on your mind, you know, like that also you're seeing in your mind only, even if it is outside, it is you're seeing in your own mind. It is like they say in Patanjali Sutras, your mind, like beam of light, goes out and it takes the shape of the object. It's like that. So see how we see objects. Suppose you are seeing this in 3 dimension. Do you think the same, that is how snakes see the object? Suppose the snake is also seeing your laptop or your mobile phone. Do you think the snake sees the same way as you see it? What do you think is the answer?
No, masters, please, you can unmute yourself and participate.
And no. Yeah, that's my answer to no. I don't think so that the snakes has mind.
So do you think bats see the same way? Do you think houseflies see the same way?
They have their own mechanism to see the things.
Yeah, good. So snake sees something called as a heat map. Okay, he sees things like red, yellow, and black, and in the mostly he called a heat map. It's not like visually they see red, yellow, and black. Bats see sound maps. Okay, they see that there is some kind of object here through vibrations. Housefly see same laptop, the same mobile as multidimensional. The same laptop is 10 times, okay, in the same frame. Okay. Colorblind person, even though he's a human being, he doesn't see this so-called the colors that you are seeing. He has only just red, blue, and yellow. Okay. So then just because you are a human being, does that mean that that is how the object is? What do you feel is the answer? Is the object really like this, how you are seeing? Just because you are, who is right? Basically, I'm asking, who is right?
Yeah, Chaitanya sir, if we talk about a person who is blind, who has never seen, then the way that he sees things are or imagines things are different depending upon his memory or his understanding what he has read and heard about it. Depending on.
Yeah, just 1 second, I'll come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for the interruption. So What do you feel like? Who is right?
Each one is right in their own ways.
What is the nature of the object then? How exactly is the object? So nobody, basically the answer is nobody knows how exactly it is. Okay. Our limited mind, we can see this particular spectrum. We see this much. The snake has his own limitation of his mind. He sees that much. Bat has his own limitation. Housefly has his own limitation. The colorblind person has his own limitation. So basically, even so-called, we say in worldly, in waking state, we are seeing things. It is still completely dependent on the our limited mind. Okay. So coming back, so the next question we may get is, if it is accepted that the source of bliss is within us, then is it present in the same proportion in everyone? Or is it, because we experience this, or in some it is more and in others it is less? The answer is the source of that infinite, that Atman, is in everyone. Only its manifestation depends upon one's good deeds and the availability of the objects of enjoyment. That is why when the object becomes available, we are happy. The source continuously supplies happiness to all from cradle to grave. Whenever karma is favorable, it never diminishes nor is exhausted. One may be rich or poor. There is an infinite source of bliss in all. A poor man is less happy is because his prarabdha karma has less good karma to fructify. He therefore gets lesser number of objects and chances to enjoy. But if the poor man gets any object to enjoy, do you think he'll enjoy lesser than a rich man?
He actually experiences bliss.
No. The question is not what he experiences. The question is, will he experience lesser happiness if compared to a rich man's happiness? If he also
No.
got the object?
No.
No. Yeah. In fact, we can even say that he may experience more happiness because he's a poor man. But the answer basically is no. So when your prarabdha karma, according to what you deserve, you get, and you experience happiness or misery according basically to that. Okay. But the source is always there present. It is like Sri Ramakrishna used to say that the wind is always there. Okay. All you have to do is unfurl your sails. Okay. So the source of happiness is always present, but we are not able to experience it because we are depending on the mind and the objects to experience it. Okay. And more truthfully, objects are also not in our control. They also, according to our prarabdha, they come into our conscious life. So there is so much of dependency involved here. So spiritual life basically is getting out of this dependency, because this law of karma itself is a bondage. Law of karma, you should transcend this law of karma itself. So we are very proud to say that sometimes that it's my duty and all. Swamiji used to tell that duty is like a midday scorching sun. Okay. See, karma, how it works is, you do something. Whenever you do something, you need to, after you do something, there is some kind of, see, any act in your life, whenever you do, you reap the benefits of that act. Okay. You get the fruits of those acts. So when you get the fruits of those acts, again, you should experience the fruits. It is like a loop now. When you experience the fruit, again, you feel some kind of attachment to those fruits, then again you want to experience more fruits, then again you strive, you do karma, then again you experience the fruits, then again you feel that I got happiness, then again you want to get more happiness, again you do karma. So this is a loop. So you should get out of this law of karma loop itself. So it may appear practical and wise to go after sense objects, but even after getting them, one discovers some day or the other in his life that they have not helped him the least in fulfilling the cherished aspiration of his life. So this usually we don't understand it when we are young, but we do understand sometimes if we have led an introspective life, usually at the end of our lives, that we have these feelings of sometimes unfulfillment, sometimes meaninglessness. So again, the answer is so long as there is ignorance. So basically the question was, yeah, we may ask then, why can't one enjoy the bliss that is within at will? If you are telling that happiness is there within, Atma is there within, why can't we enjoy it? Why does one need objects to manifest it? Why do you need a wife to be happy? Why do you need name and fame to be happy? Why do you need properties to be happy? Why do you need appreciation to be happy? Why do you need some work to be happy, some meaningful life to be happy, when it is already there? And such an infinite ocean of bliss is within everyone. Why do people still run after this mirage of objects of enjoyment? So long as there is ignorance covering the Atma in the individual, so long will he be unable to experience that infinite bliss directly at will. So ignorance, again, I have said that there are three types of ignorance. One is the ignorance of basic sciences, like suppose there is the shell, so it shines like silver. When you go near it and when we investigate it, you come to know, yes, oh, it's not a silver, it is just a seashell. It something looks like a snake. So when you go near it and see it, oh, it's not a snake, it is a rope. A basic, when you see in the outside world, basic ignorance is you overcome it by your basic sciences, philosophy, basic sciences, your so-called humanities, arts. Then there is something called karya jnana, that is ignorance of your real individual self, your jivatma. So this you will get slowly an intuition after reading Vedanta by some theoretical knowledge, by subjective sciences. Then there is something called as causal ignorance itself, that is karana jnana. Why you have, like, what basically is your nature, that is a bit difficult. So that you will get by practice only. Okay, there's no shortcut to it. So long as we are unable to experience that infinite bliss directly and at will, but when this ignorance, what I'm talking about, causal ignorance, vanishes, after realization of Atman, he becomes joy itself. Okay, so nobody values a man. When you say a man right now, in worldly sense I'm talking about, so usually when we say when we look up to a man, what do you value? So basically value his money, his name and fame, his so-called skills sometimes. So we always are trying, when we try to judge a person, we judge the value based on what he has, not what he is. If anybody says I'm just a human being, what human being? There's no value to it, you say. But actually, if you really have realized yourself, life itself is bliss, life itself is happiness. You don't need anything for happiness. Okay, being human, just being, that's why he's called a human being. Just being itself is blissful. Then he attains that bliss of his own nature, Swarupananda Avapti. So this is Vedanta Swara, that is attaining the bliss of his real nature. Till then, the happiness is rationed by his karma, as we have discussed before. So if he has done good karma in the past, the in the present, he'll be experiencing that particular karma. Then the answer question may come then, if everything is predetermined, why should we work? What do you think is the answer for that? सब कुछ predetermined है तो if my bhoga is predetermined, even if I sit in a jail, if I'm going to get 1 crore, why should I work? What do you think is the answer?
Efforts are needed to
Do
achieve.
your karma.
Efforts are needed to achieve it.
Yeah, that's a good answer. Work is needed to manifest that, but still there is still a deeper answer.
See, every minute of your life you live in desires. When you like to have the goal to reach for the desire, then you have to have the process. That process is going to be the one which you need to define.
Okay. Suppose I say you need not work even for that. Suppose it just comes and manifests in front of you. Suppose you have done some good deeds in your life. This life, you have just got what you needed. So just means like it just landed to you. Okay. Then still why you have to work? People still work.
You don't need to.
You don't need to?
No.
Okay.
Because you just need to keep up. So maybe that still needs to be like in work. So
we are creating karma every, as you said about good karma and bad karma. So if you are enjoying that good karma, the resultant might be a bad karma also. So the whole idea of this thing is to neutralize that karma. So you reap the benefits of whatever good karma that you have, make it neutralize towards the end. That's what the idea is. If everything is predetermined. And there's a concept of free will also, right? We can do, that's something which is debatable, but yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah. Good. So we'll talk about free will. So basically they say why we have to work is, if you are satisfied with your so-called what is given to you by your previous karma, it is okay. You will feel like I may not work, but it is very simple. The law of karma, you don't have to get your next life into it. Simple it is. Like even like if you do something good, you'll if you work hard, you'll pass. If you earn money, you will get appreciated. So now the question lies is, why do we usually work? There is still a more deeper answer to this, but I'm going to give a very superficial answer. So again, one is what you have already mentioned. To manifest that happiness, we have to work. Okay. That is a wonderful answer. Even if it is given to you, or to remove the obstacles to that happiness, we have to, that is work to experience what we already have in our prarabdha. The second one is, now if you want to see how you have earned this karma, now if you're not satisfied with what you have, you want to go to the next, if you want to experience something higher, again you have to work for that, because the happiness attached to any particular level, material happiness, is fixed. Okay, that is one of the laws. I'll tell you later when I'm explaining the laws of happiness. It is fixed. See, you can't just squeeze your wife for more happiness. Just because you think that I changed my wife, I'll change my job, I'll change my food, you'll get more happiness. No, food gives you this limited amount of happiness. No matter what different varieties, Chinese, Indian, and American you try, it is fixed. Wife gives you this much happiness, it is fixed. By changing wives, happiness does not increase. By changing your job, by work, happiness will not increase. Work will give you only this much happiness. It is fixed, it has its ration. But now work comes into picture if you want to get to the next level of happiness. Okay, next conscious level of happiness. So that is why people work. And there is still a deeper answer. to this why people work is the purpose. See, we always hear this in motivational talks and all, that what is the purpose of your life? So what do you think is the answer for that? Do
Be
you think life has
happy
a
and
purpose?
to be happy.
Do you think life has a purpose? Okay, be happy is a very generalized answer. I am talking here about work.
Within us.
Does life has a purpose?
To realize
It's not
oneself.
content. The
Yeah,
purpose.
happiness, as I said, happiness, that is a goal. So we usually talk about this many times, that I need to find my purpose and all. And we struggle a lot trying to find our purpose. We try to seek, and we don't feel some kind of so-called as midlife crisis we experience, like you're not doing what you're good at, and all these questions come into being. So, but this is still, I'm not telling this is a very fundamental point of view, but we face this is an existential crisis called as meaninglessness. So we feel that what am I doing in life? These questions, they may not come for everybody, but few people they do come. So then you want to get answers like this. Life ka purpose kya hai bhai? What is this purpose? So here also karma comes into being. Okay, not karma in the sense of law of karma, in the sense of work. Okay, see, everybody as such, okay, has a purpose. Okay, it is just like what is the purpose of my bladder? What is the purpose of my liver? What is the purpose of cactus? So its purpose is just to do that work. Okay, so the bladder does its work. It makes sure that the waste products are exited. The liver takes in the waste and gives you the right what we call those hormones, so that they get you they can your body works well. So what is the purpose of the heart? The heart beats so that, so similarly, how each and everything has a purpose, each human being has a purpose, each element in this world, each entity in this world has a purpose. So but basically what happens in our everyday life is we start comparing. It's like bladder starts comparing. Oh, everybody loves the heart. There are so many uh, media films that are based on heart. His picture is posted in every greeting card. Everybody appreciates him. So we always try to look at this aspect of work. We always try to compare that, oh, that is a better work. So maybe happiness lies there. Okay. We try to see this in this way, usually because of our delusion. We try to understand purpose in this way. We feel that, oh, that is maybe if I become a jasmine tree, people will love me. Everybody, this cactus does not have a purpose. I'm a thorny plant. Everybody, nobody sees me. I grow in desert. I should become I should become a jasmine. So do you think that is possible? It happens, right, in our lives. We compare, we want to become somebody else.
Yes, I think majority of society lives in that comparison.
Yes, good. So yes, it does happen, but unless, see, first is we need to start accepting, because actually joy does not lie in this is so-called, we need to transcend it itself. Okay, there is a limited, as I said, the Vedanta does never says that there's no joy in lower levels of happiness. They do, it exists, but there is something called as, you can transcend this so-called uh, work itself. Okay, work actually should not matter. That is not, it does give you happiness, but basically in India, you can say nobody does what they really like, okay, what they're really good at, because we are still we are still an upcoming country. We have poverty issues are there, parental pressure is there. First they tell us, "Pehla do something for, pehla roti kamao." They pehla bread, and make sure that your bread and butter is assured. बाद में अपना passion खेलो, do what you like, and all these things is, we are usually conditioned like this. So usually that is why we, when we don't do something what we like, it is like the bladder is not doing the work of its bladder, but it's always trying to become the heart. It is like you are good at something, but the work that you're doing is something what you're not good at. This is existential, um, one problem that we face. So we can get over this kind of conflict by transcending it. Okay. What do I mean by transcendence is, first of all, it is good that what you are born to do, try to recognize it, try to spend some time what you're good at. So how you will come to know what you're good at? Basically, uh, because of your past life, you'll be always good at something in this life. So that is one kind of clue. Next is something which is easy for you, something which you like doing constantly, something which you don't get bored at. So this is you, but many people fail to recognize this in their younger life, and they do something which we feel is more glorious in the worldly point of view, and we suffer later. But this suffering need not be actually felt in such a deep sense. You can transcend this suffering because you are more than your so-called work. You are more than your so-called purpose. You are the infinite itself. You are Atma itself, your consciousness itself. So you are that light, you are that very source in which this creation exists. So when you start identifying with this holistic view, the small things of your work will not start affecting you. This is one point of view that I wanted to make, because this is a very existential crisis that most of us face in our life, that we first of all, we fail to recognize our purpose. Upon that, even if we recognize our purpose, circumstances, commitments are there that we cannot do what we like. But you need not feel bad. You can transcend it by understanding that Atma itself gives you happiness. Work actually is, it manifests that happiness, but it is, don't think that it is such an critical factor for making you sad. Okay, then okay, so one tries one's level best to end misery completely by running after the world, that mean the objects by comparison, but he fails. Yama says to Nachiketa in the Kathopanishad, the beneficial Shreyas and the pleasant Preya approach mankind. See, many times we have been approached by both. What they mean by beneficial is something which is right now it may appear as poison, but later it turns out to be a great source, a more permanent source of happiness. Pleasant is something immediately you may feel tremendously pleasurable, but later you may feel that bondage later. A man of intelligence, having considered them, separates the two. The intelligent one selects the beneficial in preference to the pleasant. The non-intelligent one selects the pleasant for the sake of growth and protection. So that choice, why we make, is because we are ignorant. Nobody, we have not been exposed. As I said, we don't even know that Vedanta exists. So this is one of the basic form of ignorance that happens to us. So I think
Yeah, Chaitanya ji,
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll
it's
end
already
here.
7:45 almost there in India. So a lot of people are Monday morning. So yeah, you can conclude for today.
Yes.
And yeah, so whatever.
So we'll end here. We'll end up here.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's it. And so let us this week let us just cogitate on these things, what we have understood about happiness in a very general sense. Later, when I take up the laws, more of these factors will come into manifestation in a more clear way. So till that, let us just try to take some time off and just try to dwell on these very uh, general concepts of happiness. Okay. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Chaitanya.
Parmeshwan sir.
Just to say thank you and already time.
Yeah,
I'm so happy and immersed in his wisdom.
yeah, thank you, Chaitanya sir, and definitely, yeah, I posted yesterday's recording already in the YouTube. I will post this one also by tomorrow. So please go through it, and when you have time.